good evening. Unfortunately, I cannot be the bearer of glad tidings when it comes to talking about England cricket. It's another series defeat. It's the fifth series defeat on the trot, and this show is titled Reset, the Red Bull Reset. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit the like button. If you're on Twitter, please give us a follow on our Twitter page at One Talking Cricket. Tonight we are joined by Grumpy Neil, the best beard in Haverhill, Rob, and Brandon is here as well. So how are we doing, guys? Brandon is not here. Hopefully we'll be here soon. How are we?
Well, I guess we always here. I was going to say let's tell Brandon we talked about Chris Wokes while he wasn't here, and then we don't have to bother.
Yeah,
It'll just be repeated, won't it, Brandon?
I'm sure it will be.
But he wasn't the worst, so
Cool.
we might
Far from.
let him off. Anyway, Rob's going to start on a real positive note because he's going to say, "I told you so," about the England women's team. Rob.
Well, yeah, not bad, mate. Although you did slam me earlier, mate, when you said that all my predictions were very likely anyway. But no, I did call it, didn't I? I said we'd beat the remaining three and then finish third on run rate. Get the Saffers in the semi, and they'll choke hopefully on Thursday morning. 2:00 start, Christchurch day nighter, and then we'll lose to the Aussies in the final, who beat West Indies tonight. So lots of positives. Eccleston, as I called it. I mean, yeah, again, she is the best one-day bowler in the world. Said last week I'd love to see her bowl at some chaps and absolutely show them how it's done. She's a phenomenal bowler. She's got 14 wickets at 15. She got 3 for 15 off 10 on Saturday at the weekend, which is unbelievable. Dunkley's firing, doing a job down the lower order. Wasn't it? Danny White got runs at the top. Looks better at the top than Lauren Winfield-Hill. Kate Cross is bowling steady every game. And they're sort of rotating the seamers around so that I'm sure we'll probably be back to Shrubsole and Brunt. But the girl, Lauren Bell, came in, did a job. Pleased for her on the last game. So looking better, absolutely on the upward curve. Like I said, South Africa to bottle it. I think the spinners, Charlie Dean, Eccleston, Heather Knight, few overs will really choke them in the middle. And hopefully the pressure of a semi will again tell on South Africa, who across all sports are renowned for choking. Heather Knight, Nat Siver due a few runs as well. Hopefully the fielding sorted itself out a little bit. They've been doing some naughty girl training for all them drop catches. But starting to come together nicely and roll on the final where we'll optimistically tune in.
So that's the positive part of the show for everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Yeah, Gov's going to drop a link. If anyone wants to come on, he'll put a link in the chat and come on and give us your thoughts about England, Joe Root, anything cricket-wise. Anyway, Brandon, where do you want to start, mate? We'll let you kick it off. Where do you want to go?
Well, should we start from the beginning of the test and work our way through? Or?
You can start wherever you want, because it didn't start very well, did it? It wasn't a great start.
No, I think all the expectation, before we turn up for the first day of cricket is that Grenada was going to be, Grenada, whatever, was going to be another flat, dead track, which I think the first that I saw that it was going to be anything different was when I saw that breaking news was that West Indies had won the toss when I was at work and that they chose to bowl first.
The government had got involved and told them to put some more grass on the wicket. Did you know that? They said that on, I think it's on a TMS podcast, Neil. I think they said that. Don't know if you heard that.
That's news for me, but it wouldn't surprise me because, as I said, the previous match was just, like as Brandon says, a bit of a dead wicket. And let's face it, this one turned into something anything but that. So,
I think what I heard before the test, when they just before they went over there, was that it was good for the economy in terms of the fact that both the previous games had played 5 days.
Yeah,
and I suppose that's one thing that they hardly got. Obviously, they only got three and change, really, didn't they, in this test match? So maybe that's something that wouldn't have been.
There's a bit of beach cricket going on. There's a bit of beach cricket going on day 4. I see Machin Tendulkar from the Tailenders podcast got caught in the sea. He was. Full bunger. Should have smashed it for 6.
Poor bloke. Anyway, when I think when England were put into bat, that raised some eyebrows, didn't it? And what came after it done the complete opposite of that. I don't think it shocked any of us that as soon as the team is able to get any form of sideways movement, we collapse. And it was the fact that on the first day our best partnership by far was the last wicket one of 2 people who I think everyone would look at as both being probably fighting each other for the number 11 position before the game. Obviously, we've seen Leach bat for England before, but it was against Ireland.
And the best one not out of all time.
He did have that, but one not out wouldn't have done us anything. But the way that, Mahmood, I swear his highest score in that's his highest ever professional score, if I'm right.
First 6 that you'd hit. If Ian was here, he would actually probably bore us.
I think his highest Lancashire score first class from what I saw was 41. So the fact that he went on and got 49, I was heartbroken for him when he got out. But yeah, I think I was surprised about the pitch. After we found out what the pitch was offering, I wasn't surprised of how day 1 ended. The only thing I was surprised about is that we got an extra 90 runs from our 10th wicket. And that's how I would start off reviewing this test. And
any surprises, Neil, when it comes to England's batting?
Just to echo what Brandon said, really. I mean, the one thing I will say, and it was bandied around our cricket club group chat, was about Lee's approach to the game. And I think that's what they brought him in for. He is very stoic and very solid in defence. But unfortunately, I think we talk about, somebody to hold one end up for people to bat around. I think, unfortunately, Lees was holding one end up for other people just to throw the wicket away at the other end. So it was hardly, as Brandon said, it's hardly any surprise that it went the way it went. I also agree. I was gutted for Mahmood not getting his 50, but I just think that the biggest thing for me that hit a nerve was then Carl Mayers comes on, the almost self-confessed dibbly-dobbly bowler, and out dibbly-dobblies our own dibbly-dobblies, which is just an absolute travesty. If there's one thing that our batting should be used to, it's that type of bowling. And it's that type of bowling that did for us in that first innings. And also, to be fair, in the second innings as well. And that's, for me, is the biggest travesty. We weren't got out with rip-snorting pace. We weren't got out with mystery spin. It's just good old line and length bowling, and it's a travesty, and it's a sign of a group of batters that have been beaten into submission.
I think that's where we had a little bit of sympathy for them going against Australia, is that the Australian pace attack, Cummins bowled some absolute snorters on that first day of the Ashes down under, and you could understand maybe why we weren't getting the scores that we should have, is because the Aussie pace attack and even some of their reserves right now, to me, is the best attack in the world.
But you got bowled out by Boland in the Ashes. He came in, Scott Boland, and
and that's strength in reserves, isn't it? I think that they have horses for courses over there, don't they? And maybe West Indies had this here. I know Myers was in the squads the first couple of matches, but when that was something else that raised eyebrows, was the fact that they dropped their spinner. I didn't really see their team until I saw Mayers come on, and I was like, I wonder who he came in for. Did he come in for Joseph? But no, then Joseph came on after, and I was like, okay. They dropped them all, and I was quite confused and sort of thrown back by that, because I didn't think Brathwaite bowled anything that would suggest that he could hold the end up. And I think that they took a gamble, didn't they? Picking, 5 seamers, and the gamble came off.
Was it a gamble, though? Because Leach bowled, didn't get a wicket for England. An interesting comment there, Brandon, from Mike Baker on the screen. It says, England have lost the ability to leave the ball outside the off stump. He's on about De Silva, who got the 100, showed the way to go. Didn't play anything outside the off stump. It's not rocket science. So if you look at Zach Crawley, I hear people, they keep saying he's got all the shots for Test cricket. I don't personally think, I don't know what you three think. He's not a Test match opener. He's way too loose. Against that new ball, you've just got to... look, I know what you're saying about Lee's there, Neil. He was a bit slow, wasn't he? Look, he's just come in the team. He's probably finding his feet. If he's picked again, I'd expect him to get picked first test against New Zealand. He's got to find a way to score a little bit quicker. But then Alistair Cook didn't have many shots, did he? And he had a really. I'm not in any way comparing the two, but going back to Crawley, he keeps getting out to that big booming drive outside the off stump. These teams know they've got all the technology. They can look on your videos. I don't know what you think, Neil, but do you think he's a Test match opener?
I don't want to take it away from Crawley, but I've heard a lot of talk after now in terms of talking about comparison between Crawley and Vince.
You're a big Vince fan, aren't you?
No, I don't like him either. To be quite honest,
he's been bad. Actually, talking about James Vince, he's been. I've seen him in the talk about. We get on to the captain talk.
Yeah, this was part of the conversation, but I just think that it's the same with Crawley, and it's going back to that age-old conversation. Are we going to drag it back to the old conversation of white ball cricket or short format cricket dictating Test cricket? It's whether you want to get into that conversation, and is that part of it? But I think the gentleman who mentioned, I can't remember who it was, who mentioned about leaving it outside off stump. Absolutely correct. Couldn't be any more correct if he tried. It really is that problem, and we've seen it from a number of English batsmen over the last 18 months, 2 years. Vince, Crawley, Burns to an extent.
Ollie Pope,
correct, Brandon?
Massive one.
Yeah, so many of them, and potentially that comes from this aspect of short format cricket dictating a style of play.
And I think that also lends its hands to people who have come into form lately who were struggling. I mean, Johnny Bairstow's come back and he seems to know exactly where he is on the crease, and Bairstow very rarely nicks off. I know he played a bit of a crappy shot to get out.
2 poor shots this test.
Yeah, but he's one who I think he does know where his off stump is, Bairstow. And
he's Bairstow's too busy getting bowled, mate, to nick off.
Well, he doesn't as much anymore, does he? That was towards my point, though, because I remember every time you watched Johnny Bairstow get out, it was playing a drive, and it used to go between bat and pad. And he sorted that out. He looks much more solid lately. And I know that he hasn't scored as many runs as he would have liked to, especially after the first test this time. But you can see people who have sort of dips in form, and a lot of the time, even outside of English players who come over to England when they're out of form, they always talk about how they've lost their off stump. Virat Kohli was a prime example. Before he came over in that series where he scored a handful of runs, he always struggled in England, and they always talked about how he didn't know where his off stump was. And I think that this England setup, as I said, as soon as the ball starts going sideways, there's no one who you can look there and say, you're going to get through this difficult period. And that was one thing that give him credit for. Alex Lee's done. If someone else done a similar job to Alex Lee's, our middle order would have been the ones benefiting, not Mahmood and Leach on the end of that first day. And that's where we've lost the test match, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fact. Chris Boyd there, he says we have a long-term issue with the openers. No combination works. Root shouldn't be at 3. Our middle order rarely fire. Then we have a long tail. Other than that, it's fine. And he's probably hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, I think it's on the first day, isn't it, Rob? You know, a test match. You can't probably win a test match on the first day, but you can definitely lose it. But saying that, we got to 204, you know, because of that last wicket partnership. Then when our turns come to bowl, we didn't bowl very well. The openers didn't bowl very well. Wokes bowled poorly again, Brandon, when he opened the bowling.
We'll get to the second session in a minute, I suppose. That's fine.
We're going on to their ins now. He bowled
we had him 128 for 7, didn't we? 177 for 8, and then just let De Silva plod on and do his thing. Just not very penetrative, like you said at the top. Not very good. Not very good with the second new ball as well. None of them really got going. We got Brathwaite early for a change. He only faced 56 balls this time round. Got rid of Bonner, who's been a pain in the bum. Holder's not got a run all series, which I was surprised at. They're bottom. They've put on for the last sort of the last 3 wickets they've put on
170.
170, 169. So
Is that
that's
poor
where we lost
captaincy, though? Is that poor captaincy? Because on day 3, when they came out, they weren't trying to get De Silva out. And we've done this before, haven't we? We've done this before when you have a set batsman in with a tail ender, and it seems we'll put everyone on the boundary when the batsman's in, and then we'll try and. But why don't you try and get both players out?
It's very. You're absolutely right, mate. It's not just England, though. I think every country does it. It's just a trend. They all do it. It's a bit like the not enforcing the follow-on thing. It's just become a bit of a trend that people aren't doing. I agree with you. I just try and get De Silva out. De Silva's. He's not got. That's his first Test ton. I don't know what he's averaging. Probably less than 30. He's stoic, but not going to score runs in a hurry. There are, keep the ring tight. Try and get him out. Because he doesn't look like scoring quickly anyway. So don't just give him a single. The other when the tail enders are showing you that they can hang around, then you need to change your tack, change your plan. And unfortunately, with the lineup of bowlers we've got, we don't look like taking a wicket. Run outs look like the most favourable way of getting them out. So yeah,
I think before this Test match, De Silva's front pad nearly looked as big as Shane Watson's did, didn't it? He looked like you were going to get him out LBW every ball, and it's bizarre to me how it's gone from. As I said, I think it's been the England way, isn't it? I think the reason we've struggled to get a tail out is because we're so concentrating on make sure that we get 6 balls at the bowler. It doesn't matter if we get 6 balls at the bowler because we don't have anything that would make.
But we did have the number 11. We had him LBW stone dead. But that's another thing about Root's captaincy. And I wouldn't just blame Joe Root for burning the reviews. I think the wicket keeper has to take a lot of responsibility here. We all wanted Ben Foakes on this show in the team, right? He's had a stinking series. He got 94 runs, and we were told that he was the best wicket keeper in the world. Standing up to Oakes, fair enough, but he's dropped catches, Neil, that Joss Butler's dropped, Johnny Bairstow's dropped. Is the pressure on him now? Because I've heard, let's give the gloves back to Bairstow. Let's bring Ollie Pope in. It's a cycle that we keep going round in.
I mean, for me, I was supportive of folks being given a chance. I wasn't one that was absolutely crying out for him for being the future, but I was all for, after the Ashes, I was all for giving him a chance. I've got to say, he has really disappointed me. Even from the first Test, I think there was one that went down the leg side, and his footwork and the attempt to dive was like something that you see standing in club cricket do. It was pathetic. And then since then, his footwork seems to have been all over the shot. There was one he dropped, I think it was in this last Test, where it was a basic edge, and for some reason he seemed to be edging down the leg side and then just collapsed. I don't know the explanation. Everybody rates him. He's done well before. He's clearly a good gloveman, but I don't know. Something just didn't click at all. And what that is, I don't know. And I'm not going to hang him out to dry, but it was just so disappointing because we were all hoping that this was his opportunity to show us that he was the man to take it forward. And I've got to say, right now, I would err on the side of going back to Bairstow.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, would you go back to Bairstow, would you?
I'd go back to Bairstow now.
Yeah, I think if folks, to be fair, if they drop him again, I think this would be the end for him. They can't. We need to get to a wicket. Bairstow, Rob, he's suffered, hasn't he? Because he should have been really the long-term wicketkeeper. Yet when Ed Smith took over, he put all the eggs in the Butler basket, didn't he?
He did.
I don't think Joss Butler. I'm not saying that Joss Butler should come back in, but
for my take on it, mate. Smith did a good job getting Butler back in and Rashid at the time, got them both back in playing red ball, and Joss did a reasonable job. Butler was given loads of games, wasn't he? I don't know, 50 games plus. Bairstow's had loads of games, but Folks has had less 10 tests. He had the odd little moment. I absolutely agree, Neil. Batting wise, he got a couple of looked good a few times. One time was going for quick runs, run himself out.
Let's talk about the run out. While we're talking about Ben Folks, talk to me about that run out.
I guess as someone who plays quite a bit, it's sometimes your brain gets scrapped. You can just the heat of the moment. We need runs. It's tough. It is tough. That's 8 times out. They normally take that on. It's an unbelievable. Let's not mess about. The throw from Mayers was unbelievable. They keep didn't have to move. It's just one of those risks you take in cricket that it's just we'll go to. He was just out. Great throw. Heat of the moment. All those sort of It wasn't a calamitous one like that women's one we talked about last week. It wasn't in the same category as that. Was it necessary? No, but it's just something they probably in the county game they'll just do that. They'll take 2 there, and unfortunately in that occasion it wasn't the right one. I think that Folkes deserves a bit more of a run in the side compared to the other 2 who had loads and loads of opportunities. He is the best gloveman. Yes, a couple of errors here and there, but Folkes bowled the odd 4 ball and Root managed to not score any runs in the last game either. So I stick with Folkes for a bit longer. I think he hasn't had a fair crack of the whip compared to the others.
Brandon?
Yeah, I'd give him another go. I think there was 2 there, to be honest, in terms of the run out. I think there was 2 there. I think if it wasn't a third test of having to wicket keep for 140 overs at a time, he might have had more in his legs to get there. And obviously, normally you have more of a break between at least a test match in a series that goes more than 2 tests as well. So I don't know whether it's fatigue, but when he hit that into a gap, I want to see England take more 2s. I think that our running is too laboured most of the time, to be honest. I think we don't push fielders enough. I think the only one who has any impetus when he runs is Johnny Bairstow. He's the only one who tries to push fielders, and I didn't mind him running for 2. The fact that Mayers, who seemed like he was struggling with a hamstring the whole match, but still took the figures that he did, I think I was surprised that he got to it and that Folkes was not back in his ground by the time the ball came down. But
did he really need to be taking that chance with the position that we're in? I know.
That's where we have to come back to, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the situation, you don't need push for 2. All you have to do is stay there.
I can see what he's doing. He wants to be proactive. He's gone out there. We're not scoring runs. I know Lees and Bairstow had a little partnership. We weren't really going anywhere in the game. He's probably come in there and he wants to get it going. But it's just an error of judgment. But like you say, the throw was it's literally there by the stumps. The keeper's not got to move. So
I think what the game plan should have been, especially after seeing that the same thing happened on day 1 and day 2, when our second innings came about, I don't understand why the game plan wasn't let's sit in and wait until it's 40, 50 odd overs in and try and get to that point without losing wickets, regardless of how many runs we've scored, because then it's going to get easier. I feel like we've gone out there and we've batted as if we haven't just seen what the pitch has done for 2 days. As we've talked about, Crawley's always a little bit loose at the top, but I think with Crawley, just going back to that a touch, it's potential I think that England sees. We've seen a couple of innings where he's come off and everyone sort of said that's what we want as an opener, because you do want someone who's a bit more positive up the top. I think all the best opening partnerships around the world have that. You look at Australia, they have Warner who's at the top, he looks to score. You have India and Rohit Sharma normally looks to score. And that's
I'm talking about world-class cricketers here, and I think
I know, but
we're getting a little bit carried away when we keep saying about
I'm not comparing
potential.
I'm just saying that's what.
How long does that potential, Brandon, last? Because if you take his double 100 out and you take his 100 out in, I think it was the first test, what is he averaging?
Not many.
Not very much. He averaged about 10 in about, 10 or 12 test matches.
I would have taken Tom Haynes out there to be my opener anyway when we were picking squads, but obviously that didn't happen. I think that I don't think Crawley's an opener either. I think that you could easily put him at 3 or 4 and sort of budge a couple people down 1, to be honest. I don't think bringing Ollie Pope back in is the answer right now either. If you want to give Bairstow the gloves, I think you can do that by just bringing in another opener and bumping everyone down 1. But if England want to persevere with Crawley, I think him and a lot of others, we need to give time. The reset isn't going to happen overnight. And I think if they really want Crawley to be one of these, they need to coach him out of playing that loose shot and sort of try and get some discipline into his batting against the new ball. Situationally, we have to be better, I think, in all stages of the games. I think the way that we manage
from guards, just to stop you there, Brandon, he says about we've only got 2 or 3 players that when the chips are down, you can count on. He's put 0 character in most of the side. And like we were saying before, Neil, we're all right. The first 2 tests, the wickets there was nothing in them. We've scored big runs. Yeah, well done. So you should. But this is what Test match cricket's about. When you get on these tricky surfaces, you've seen it time and time again. They put a stat out on TMS. I can't remember what it is. From 3 wickets down, like losing the last 7 wickets, we have had some absolutely horrendous collapses.
Yeah.
And it just keeps continuing.
Yeah, again, people saying things for us, but the ticker that the team shows. I think when we talked to one of the Ashes tests, we talked about it. It was nice to see some of the guys showing a bit of ticker, but just to come on a pitch that was different to the previous one and suddenly be shown up quite so much was just embarrassing.
Was it a minefield? Was it a minefield, Neil, the wicket? No,
it wasn't. But yes, it was dramatically different from the previous one. But these are guys, the majority of them, that if you go from one county ground to another, pitches differ massively. So it's not as if they've never come across a pitch that will differ from a previous one that they've just played on. That happens all the time. If they can't adapt, then they shouldn't be playing at the highest level. And I think that's the major problem that we're looking at.
You're going about adaptability, and you've got Crawley at the top, still the big booming drives.
If we took that wicket and put it in England in the England summer, that would be a bat first and classed as a road in England nowadays.
Well, it would, wouldn't it?
It would.
But we can't. What's the reason, Brandon? We keep having these collapses. Is it mentality?
Yeah, mentality.
Obviously, these players are talented, aren't they?
I don't know. I can't speak because I haven't been in one of the training sessions. But from what we see, I can't imagine the standard of coaching they're getting is helping them at all. All I've seen is players who have been around England for a period of time have seemed to get worse. Ollie Pope is another prime example. Every time he goes away with Surrey, he scores God knows how many runs. He comes in and looks all right, and then suddenly over time he just can't get to double figures. I think we need to sort everything out. I think from coaching, because I think we need a coach who will help them on the technical side of the game, but someone who can really get something out of them in terms of mentality. And I don't see why Justin Langer would be a bad shout, personally. I'd have Ricky Ponting. If I could pick anyone in the world, it'd be Ricky Ponting, because I just think we need someone who can teach every part of the game, who has played all over the world and has experience in every sort of phase of the game and situation. Because I don't think England ever have a plan B. I think this is when we get down to the tail, we expect, these guys can't bat as well as the 7 guys we've got out. We should just be able to get them out. And as soon as there's any form of resistance, England just have no idea what they're doing. And that might be captain as well, but there's 11 people on that pitch who can talk to the captain. And the fact that nothing changes suggests that there's not a brain in the bunch, really, to me, anyway.
I totally agree with you. Ponting's my pick. I don't know if they'll go for him. So. I wouldn't be against Langer. It all depends who they're going to pick as director of cricket. I don't know what you think, Rob. When I see Rob Key's name mentioned, I thought, oh my God, please no.
Out of all the Sky pundits, I'd take Nasser over Rob Key any day.
He's the one. He's the one. If I could pick a director of cricket, I would go for Nasser Hussain.
Nasser and Atkinson. Get them on it.
What's your thoughts on Rob Key down the bottom there?
Long as we stay away from Peterson's thoughts, he's talking lots of drivel as well, isn't he, at the moment? I don't necessarily have a name for you. That's why I put it on my own bio thing. Maybe me. I'll give it a go. Can't be any worse than them, can I?
They said Marcus North. He's the favourite, Neil, at the minute. I think he's thrown his hat into the ring. I think Tom Moody's in there.
Again, Tom Moody, I don't think would, from a director of cricket point of view, I don't think would be a bad shout. Going back to the coach, Justin Langer would be my choice, just purely down to the more extensive coaching experience over Ricky Ponting. But as I say, I tend to agree. Somebody that's going to instill a little bit of toughness in the team, and hopefully bring a coaching team in. I think Brandon's absolutely spot on. I think that a large proportion of some of the ills over the last 2 years because we have a coaching team in place that clearly aren't doing their job with the players involved. And I think if it not only needs a tough coach and possibly a tough director of cricket, but a team behind them that will back that approach up. So whoever that is, I don't know, but certainly someone like Tom Moody for me as a director of cricket wouldn't go amiss, or Nasser. I'd back Nasser as well. But yeah, Justin Langer for me as coach, but just needs to instill a bit of toughness back in this group, I think.
This is where I also start to worry a little bit about Dan Lawrence, because I think the coaching staff don't know how to adapt to people's specific sort of unorthodox batting styles. I think that's why Rory Burns, for one, literally fell off a cliff. Once again, he's someone who scores loads of runs in county cricket. They don't know how to coach these styles that batsmen have adapted their game to and that work for them. And I think that's why you need some coaches who ideally are very good batsmen in their day, but someone who's maybe coached sort of unorthodox. And that's why Justin Langer, he's coached people like Smith, who's not exactly orthodox in the way he bats. I just think we need someone who will look at each player and know exactly how to coach that player. I know it's probably easier said than done, but there's so many things to look at here. And that's why I'm so worried about Dan Lawrence being another one who sort of has his own style. I think if we don't get the right coach in, these sort of youngsters who have got their own style will just fall off a cliff and be forgotten about. And they have the potential there, which might be wasted. But
what do you think to Simon Harris's comment in Neil about too many county players just picking up a wage, not enough players of quality to select from?
I'm glad you asked me about that one, because this is following Peterson's trend, isn't it, of going to franchise cricket. And I can't remember where somebody mentioned this when they were talking to Kevin Peterson on TalkSport the other day, but I certainly thought about it as well, is that, okay, that's fine. Let's reduce the talent pool or reduce the pool of players to supposedly improve the best playing against the best. The problem you've got with that is that's not changing who we've got. All you're going to have is the same group of players we've got now playing against each other. So how does that develop anybody else? You're reducing the opportunity for players to show their worth. So how do we know if anybody else is going to be any good coming through? And don't talk to me about player pathways to back that up, because I think there's enough stories about player pathways letting the system down. We could look at any county in the country and there'll be horrific stories about player pathways letting the talent pool down. So no, I don't see how reducing the amount of players will improve things. So all you're going to be left with is the same players we've got now, because they're supposed to be the best.
But when we went to number one in the world under Strauss, no one was moaning about county cricket then.
Exactly.
No one was moaning when we won the World Cup under Morgan. So I don't really know what the answer is, but like when we were talking about the coaching there, Rob, and getting the coach and director of cricket in. So they come in. Do you think they'll stick with Joe Root? Do you think it will be Root stays in, or is it the time now? So you're going to have the new director of cricket, you're going to have the new coach in. It's a new broom, sweep out, Root goes.
Mate, it's such a tough one. I mean, in any other circumstance, you'd be like, Root, time's up. I think you look at the way some players have played in the last sort of year or so, they've not really given their all. You look at Stokes. Stokes has given his heart. He always does. I feel that Bairstow does. Some of them others have maybe been on sort of just there for the journey a little bit. I feel like he's lost the dressing room a little bit, to be fair. I don't think Collingwood's backed him up in it. I don't think Collingwood's a long-term future either. I didn't say this myself. I did see it in the chat from Guards, who made a really good point I actually agree with, which is Broad for skipper for a year or so. I think that is a real check.
Broad.
It's not. It's not my comment. I read it. I read it somewhere earlier today, but it just resonated. I think he did a reasonable job with the T20 side about 5 years ago, and I think he does wear his heart on the sleeve. It also gets him picked every game, doesn't it? And I think we all would all agree that he should be playing. I just think that's the way to go. The other thing was that is, with Root is there's just no one else. Stokes has sort of unequivocally said he's not going to do it. It might be slightly different if Joe's sacked. He might have to step up and do. But I didn't think I'd say it, but maybe Broad for skipper, or if they kick Root out, maybe Stokes on the basis that you're told to do it, so get on with it then. But I just don't want to be looking at that sort of Colin Cowdrey-esque scenario of bringing in Billings or Vince to captain the side. Lees isn't guaranteed his place.
Tom Overall's been mentioned.
I don't want to go there, mate. For me, I don't want to go there. Random, just guy off the circuit and in, because unless you're Mike Brearley-esque with the psychology, which I don't think they are, no evidence is there. So I think I'd keep it in-house for a little bit longer.
But when you go back through like the time, Brandon, it was Strauss. He was in the team. You knew he was going to be the captain. Cook, Root, even Michael Vaughan when he was in. We always knew who the next captain was going to be. But at the minute, the cupboard's bare. I totally agree with Guards, and I agree with you, Rob. I'd give it to Stuart Broad. Look, it's not going to be a long-term appointment. I think we know that with his age, but I wouldn't give it to Stokes. I don't think he needs the burden. He's the all-rounder. Another thing is, look, he was bowling, Brandon, in that test match with a massive strapping on his knee. Yeah. He'll break down at the drop of a hat. They say we have to try and manage him, but we never even manage him when he's playing because he wants to bowl all the time. He wants to bat all the time. He's great in the field. If he's skipper, I just think that's too much. So Broad for me. I don't know what you think. You might want to keep Root, or you might give it to Oakes.
I'd give it to Oakes. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, you would.
No, this one is a head scratcher because I think in an ideal world there'll be someone to take it off Root because I think his time probably is up, but I probably see him carrying on until there's an obvious replacement who's ideal, to be honest.
Now, how long's that going on? Because there is no one.
I don't know, Rich. In all honesty, until someone becomes a choice for the long term, I think. Because if Root doesn't want to give it up yet, I don't think they'll sack him, to be honest. I also don't think they would give it to Broad. And I don't know whether Broad would take it with the way that he's been treated the last couple of years. I think that would be a bit of a, I think he'd take that as a bit of crap, to be honest. But I'm lost. Well, Stokes is the only other option who would be in the team. But I agree with you. If he bats, he bowls, he fields, I don't want him thinking about everything else as well. I think he does enough for the team. The one thing that I've been surprised I haven't seen Stokes do is field anywhere near the slip cord in this series, to be honest. I don't know what's going on there. But I have no idea. Root will probably keep it because there's no one else.
Stuart Wallace in the comments there agrees. He said Broad would be a great short-term skipper. I think we just have to look at the short term. I think too often, Neil, with England, we're always looking ahead. Oh, we've got to build to the Ashes. This is the problem with this series. Jimmy and Broad. Well, I don't know if they were dropped. Were they rested? Who knows? But the problem with that, and we spoke on here before, if we win the series, all well and good. But we've not won the series. They're asking Joe after the game the question, and it's like, yeah, but I don't really want to answer that because I've answered it before, and I'd rather talk about Wood was injured, if we'd have had Ollie Robinson. But surely, I said before, you pick your best team, whoever's available, and you win the next series. We've lost 5 series on the trot now. We've had 1 win in 17, and we're in a right hole, aren't we?
I think we'd probably all agree as well that if we did have Broad and Anson for the last game, we probably would have been on that sort of pitch much, much better off. I said after the second test, I don't know whether they would have had the difference in terms of winning us the first and second test, considering the pitches they were bowling on. But on that last pitch, I think they would have found something more than the bowlers we had did. And I think we probably would have bowled them out for less than 300 odd they ended up getting. Because I think De Silva is a bang average batsman, to be honest. I looked at him in the same way, unfortunately, I looked at Folkes, which is probably a wicketkeeper that should be batting number 8, which he was this game. If you look at him at 7, you probably look at the tail starting at that point. But he batted well, but I don't know. I just think that England are just continuously taking steps backward. We can talk about how we had winning draws the first 2 matches, but
don't count for nothing. That's
no, exactly. It's awful because if you can't find ways to win those sort of matches, then that really does show you how low this team is, that they called them winning draws, and how positive apparently they were about the two results. If you don't win the game, you should be disappointed. I couldn't care less.
We didn't have you on last time, did we, Neil? You weren't
No,
on the last show.
no.
When they were talking about this new positive approach they want to take, and Brandon touched on it. You know, if we were that positive, we would, that second test. I know we're going back, but we would have declared earlier. If we were being that positive, like, what did they score at runs per over in this series of Windies? Well, before this test, no more than 2 and over.
Yeah.
So if we were really being that positive, we really believed, and Joe was like, right, I'm going to set them a target here. You know, they've got plenty of overs, but they're not going to get them because they're not going to score at that rate.
No. Take risks.
My biggest issue with Root now, and I'm a big Joe Root supporter, and my main concern is that he's getting burnt out, and being our best batsman, that's the last thing we want right now. However, my biggest concern with Root right now is that, and we've already talked about this numerous times tonight, he's not tough enough at this moment in time. He has been, and he is a tough guy under a very nice exterior. I think he is a tough guy. However, I think he's pandering as captain, pandering to the establishment. If he was the captain that we want him to be, he would have turned around and gone, no. Broad and Anderson are coming to West Indies. We need to win this series. They come. And I'm just getting a little bit concerned that Root is turning into that yes man that we don't want.
To keep his
Who
job.
was that? Who was that down to then? Who do you think that was down to that they didn't go? Was it Strauss? Was Strauss putting his...
Probably Strauss, yeah, I would have thought so.
But he was only temporary anyway, Strauss. Joe should have said, I'm the captain. I'm going to be here after you. They're coming with us. Because you need to win that next series. It's like going back in the chat there, Chris Boyd saying it was a winnable series. Do we really stand a chance versus New Zealand, India, or South Africa this summer? You know, and Michael Vaughan hit the nail on the head. And I said this to one of my friends last summer. England were always strong at home. You know, away from home, struggled. But when we played home series on our pitches, we had Broad, Anderson, you know, Wokes was decent over here. Yeah, I did give him some praise there, Brandon. But we were always going to win the home series. But now when we're starting losing home series, and you look at that, New Zealand will come over here in the summer. Can you really see us beating them at the minute? I can't. Will we win a test match this summer?
Well, the worst thing is New Zealand perform in almost exactly the same conditions we do. So they're exactly they've got some of the best swing and seam bowlers in the world right now.
Yeah, and I think if we have Broad and Anderson in the summer in our conditions, and the bowling attack of Wokes, Broad, and Anderson in the English conditions is one not to mess with, is it? But
it'll always come down to we won't score enough runs. Yeah,
and that's why in the last couple of years at home, you very rarely see either team really get to 300, isn't it? It's sort of scores of 280 odd, and you look at it and you're thinking, oh, they've done well there. Par's generally been about 250 over here. I see us winning some tests in the summer, not through the quality of our batting or the quality of...
Who do you think we'll beat? South Africa? Because I don't think we'll beat New Zealand.
I do. I think we'll beat New Zealand.
You think we'll beat the Kiwis?
I don't think we'll win the series. I think we'll win a match. I think that I do think we'll beat South Africa. I think South Africa's white ball has come good a little bit recently, and I know they had a competitive series did they win it against India?
Yeah, they beat India 2-1.
Yeah. But I see us winning tests at home. As I said, I don't think that when it comes around to October,
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, Brandon. I'm being totally honest here. I think it's going to be a summer of struggle.
I think if you go with if Anderson and Broad are playing at home, you know, we're going to keep teams to well under 300, aren't we? So if they both play first test, or if they one in, one out, you know, Robinson, you know, probably go back to him, won't we? Because he's decent,
man.
So we're always going to bowl all right, and you just know that Root's going to get 1 or 2 tons a series. Stokes will go well. Somebody else will chip in, and then a few runs here and there, and English conditions were there or thereabouts because the bowlers.
You think the nail on the head there, Rob? You're saying it was back in the chat there a while ago about it's the same players standing up. We need Look, Joe Root, yeah, Stokes, class players, Jimmy and Broad. But we need more. We can't just be relying on these four all the time. It's time for the batsmen. Look, Dan Lawrence had a decent series. Yeah, he's averaging 33. Zach Crawley, 31. You know, all of them, they're all... Chris Wokes averaged 35 with a bat. But then if you look at their career averages, that is about the standard, Neil, that they're averaging in county cricket. It used to be, you had to be averaging over 40 to get in the England team.
Yeah.
There was...
Does that not just show... Go on, Rob.
I was just going to say, mate, that I just have to share this one. There was something, I don't know if you saw it on Sunday, but there was just somebody famous enough did a tweet on Sunday. It said, remember 10 years ago when we used to bemoan Trott scoring slowly and Bell being the weak link in the top six? Nearly brought a tear to my eye. Sorry, Neil,
it's right. It's spot on, isn't it? Like, you know, I mean, get our rose-tinted spectacles on and look back, you know, but it's right. You know, the quality isn't coming through. So to an extent, you've got to look at what KP says and what the message said earlier in terms of the quality in county cricket. But there's got to be more to it than that. There's got to be more of a reference to county championship matches, 4-day matches, at the right time of the year, on when the pitches are of the best quality. And we've got to concentrate on that. And the thing that keeps going round in my mind, talking about this summer, for example, is we need that strong leadership team in place from top down that will instill into the team the right conditions to perform, whether that be from having the right team selected, i.e. Broad and Anderson, to their mentality when batting and bowling for that matter. And also, the other thing we haven't mentioned is the breakdown of the fast bowlers. You know, is there a problem in the medical side of this as well? So
I don't think Wood was fit, Neil, for the series because he had to have an injection in his elbow before the series. I did say about Ollie Robinson, I wouldn't have taken him for this series because he'd broken down in Australia. He should have gone home and they should have put him on a program to get him fit for the summer. You know, he's gone out there. They said the first test he was out. Then he was bowling in the middle at lunchtime and he was looking good. Then he couldn't make the second test. The same thing happened for the third test. And he's probably one of our, if he's fit in the summer, he'll be one of the first picks, Robinson, because he's done well, hasn't he? But we need to get people on the park playing cricket.
We need an outstanding fast bowler and we need an outstanding spinner.
Archer. Get Archer back in, Neil.
Who aren't going to break down, Rob? Who aren't going to get injured within the 3 games after coming back?
Yeah, but somebody said it. Somebody said in the chat earlier about Archer's overbowled. Root overbowled. He overbowled Stokes, overbowled Archer, and he bowled Archer into the ground. And these other fast bowlers seem to be made of paper. So whoever just said about they're looking at the how they're looking after these guys and managing their workload. If they're on these contracts, then these contracts need to be tightened up a little bit. It says you need to be in the gym doing this, this, and this. And I think somebody else put about looking at the site. You just mentioned it, like the psychological angle of how these guys are being managed. Just thinking about the just going sideways a little bit, thinking about the chief exec or top coach or who director of cricket. Do we look a little bit left field and get out of cricket? And even look at just somebody who's just really good with people, really good with organising, etc. Someone like Clive Woodward, even just someone to just get hold of it and shake it up and tell a few people some home truths about how things need to be run.
He went to Southampton, didn't he? When he was from
after
England rugby, then he went there. So maybe I wouldn't look if Rob Key gets picked. I'm not doing this show. I'm packing it in because that would be it'd be a disaster. He got all his eggs in the 100 basket. He said back in a few months ago. Right, so we'll go quickly around the room. Neil, Joe Root, stay or go? I said quick.
Stay.
Rob?
Go.
Brandon?
Stay.
I'm going go. And I'm going Broad as captain. Are you going as captain, Rob? Broad?
Yeah. Broad as
there
well.
We go. Anyway, we've done that. Right, so we'll go we'll quickly zip through the player ratings for this game, and then we'll do the series ratings. So we'll start with you, Brandon, for the third Test match ratings.
Crawley 2.
Agreed.
Lees 5. Root 2.
Yeah.
Lawrence 2.
Yeah.
Stokes 5. Bairstow 2. Folks 2. Wokes 6.
I've given him a 6 as well.
There you go.
Because I was harsh. I was a little bit harsh on him last week, wasn't I? I think.
Yeah. Overton 5. Mahmood 5.
Hang on. How did you get Craig Overton at a 5?
He took 2 wickets in the first innings, didn't he?
Chris Wokes light, he is. We'll come on to him in a minute because he is nowhere near Test match opening bowler standard.
He took 2 wickets though, first innings. So Mahmood 5.
Runouts took 1 wicket.
Leach 3. Wait, no. Leach scored runs. Leach 6.
Yeah,
Mahmood 7. Yeah. I was just
on,
thinking about their bowling. Sorry.
Yeah, you've got to look at the batting down the order at the bottom there.
Mahmood 7, Leach 6. There you go. They're my, yeah.
Right then, Neil. What's yours?
Lees 4, Crawley 2, Root 2, Lawrence 2, Stokes 4, Bairstow, I put 3, but actually I might knock him down to 2 as well. Folks 2, Wokes 4, Overton. Go on then, I'll move him up to 3. I had him at 2. Leach 5, Mahmood 6.
You're scraping the barrel there, really.
It's not a pretty picture, is it? Let's be honest.
Really. It's not taking long. Go on, Rob. What have you got?
Well, like you said, you lose by 10 wickets. The other team have only had to do half of their, 3/4 of their activities. Really close to Neil, actually. Lees, I give a 6 because he scored 31 twice. And if you look at that, out of all the runs we scored, that's quite a hefty bit, and he did hang around. Crawley 2, Root 2, Lawrence 2, Stokes 4, puts everything in, did bowls and bats. Bairstow 3, he got 20. Folks 3, Wokes 4, Overton 3, rubbish. Leach 5 because he can bat, and 7 for Mahmood because he bowled with some encouragement and he top scored. So Mahmood, tokenistic man of the match, but no one wants to drink from that champagne.
So Ian will be watching this back. Can you give Matt Parkinson a rating for carrying the drinks, please?
So yet again, he's got his stock's gone up even higher by not playing.
Exactly.
Me and Ian absolutely.
They always become better players, don't they, Rob, when they're not in the team?
Absolutely, mate. Me and Ian have absolutely backed him to the hill in our group and on here, and egg on our face. He didn't get a game, so
no, I agree.
He ain't gonna get him in. He isn't going to play in England, is he? So
no.
Get that trolley ready again.
Pakistan in the winter, he should get a gig out there. If he doesn't play out there, well,
if we go, yeah.
Well, yeah. So right, Crawley, I've given a 2. Alex Lees a 6 because, I agree with you, Rob. He done all right. He dug in, got a stinker of a ball in the second innings. Root 2, Lawrence 2, Stokes 4, Bairstow 3, Chris Wokes 6. 6, Brandon. Ben Folks 2, Overton 3, Leach. I'll give Leach a 6 just for his batting, and Mahmood gets a 7. He's probably the find of the tour, I would say.
We were all along the same lines then, that all the just batsmen got a 2 other than Lees, who actually contributed something. And the bowlers, Wokes was clearly the pick of the bowlers for everyone here, by the sounds of it.
No, definitely not.
So you agree? Oh, good, you agree. And then because the bowlers also were the ones doing the batting for the majority of the time.
But that should be his last overseas Test match. I think you agree with that.
No. Why?
Move on, Rich. Move on.
Yeah, we'll move on. We'll now go to the series ratings, and we'll start with you, Brandon. I'll be interested with your Chris Wokes series ratings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. Unfortunately, a lot of the batsmen have one score that makes their series look much better than it actually is, I've found.
By the way, where were you walking the other day? You walked 8 miles.
I went to Alton Water.
8 miles. putting it in.
Around, parked in Brantham, ended up walking up to Tattonstone pretty much. We got 4 miles round, and then my girlfriend was complaining about blisters. So I said, you have 2 options. You can either turn around and we can walk 4 miles back to the car, or we can carry on walking 4 miles back to the car. So
you walk 4 miles back to the car?
Yeah, back to the car.
Yeah.
The cafe was closed at the end. I was absolutely fuming. Never mind.
That's good.
I gave Crawley for the series I originally gave him a 3 actually, but he's 1 score and a half means I'll give him a 4. 1 score, 1 semi-score out of 6 innings isn't good enough to me personally. Lee's for his first series, I think he had a couple of starts, didn't he? But he has more reason to struggle than the rest of the batsmen really, with this being a lot of pressures on his obviously on his shoulders, because he's trying to cement a place in the team when the rest of these sort of hedging their bets because they don't think anyone else is going to take their place in the team. So I'll give Lee's a 4 as well. I'll give Root a 5. His batting deserves much higher, but his use of reviews and his inability.
What would you give him for his batting? What would you give him for his batting? Just take his batting.
I would give him a 7.
Yeah, I've given him a 7, and then I've put in brackets 3 for his captaincy.
Yeah, so that evens it out roughly the same.
Yeah.
Lawrence, I think, is one of the only players who's probably shown that he has a lot in his a lot of ability to offer things for England going forward. I'll give him a 6.
He's another one though. When the ball moves, his technique's a little bit.
Yeah, and as I said, I think that's where a good coach will help massively, because young players like Lawrence, who has shown his ability, just needs someone to come in and harness it, doesn't he? But so I'll give him a 6. Stokes, I'll give a 6.5. I can't really stretch to a 7.
We don't do 0.5s on here. No,
I'll give him a 6 then. I won't stretch to a 7. I'll give him a 6. Bairstow, probably a 5. You got a big ton to start the series and then not much else. Wokes, I'll give a.
Come on.
I'll give him a 5.
Look at
it's
Chris Wokes, 5 wickets at 46. So what are you?
What I would just like to say is the one innings that he's bowled on that has offered anything at all, he took 3 wickets and actually looked like England's most doable bowler, especially in that middle session. We wouldn't have had a chance if we didn't wipe out their middle order. So it would have been done in day 2.
You're clutching there.
I know. Was that Brandon just admitting that Wokes can only get wickets on a pitch that helps him?
I'd like to see any bowler get wickets on the first 2 wickets, mate. Put Anderson and Broad out there to bowl on them 2. Go on, see what they'd do. Not much.
Which we bloody did.
Well, they wouldn't have done much. Overton.
Oh, come on.
I'm struggling to get him to a 2. I think the best thing he done this series was being ill the second test. So
I love that.
I'll give him a 2 for that. I'll give him a 2. I don't think he's
2 for being ill.
I thought that he was a sort of bowler that should. History in terms of West Indies, tall bowlers do well. I've said this a lot, but even looking at this series, well ahead of it actually coming round, tall bowlers tend to do really well in the West Indies. Previous series suggests that, and he hasn't. So, how he was also given the new ball, and we persisted with giving him the new ball so many times when I think Mahmood was only given the new ball in this last innings when they were chasing 28. Don't understand that. Mahmood, I'd give a 7. I think more so than anything, the stats, he didn't get the wickets maybe that you'd like to, but he just showed heart and some ability, and he was one person who maybe looked like getting a wicket opposite Leach on some of those flatter decks that he played on. So he gets some credit from me. Leach, I'm going to give a 6. I think he's average and not very remarkable is the best way that I can put his spinning. Very economical. Took the odd wicket.
Leading wicket taken with 11.
Yeah, relied on the pitches to give him variation because he just bowls the same ball, six balls and over. Fisher, I'll give a 5, I suppose.
Interesting comment there, because you said about tall bowlers in the West Indies. Stuart Wallace says Roach isn't tall.
No, but if he didn't take wickets with the new ball, he also didn't take wickets. It's one thing I've noticed. He was really good with the new ball to start with, but if he didn't get the openers out, he was normally one that they hardly bowled in the middle overs when the ball was old.
I think he's saying a lot his overall career, not just this series.
Even so, I've never seen him do anything middle overs, even when he bowls in England. But I was just looking. I got that stat.
Wickets, Brandon.
I looked at the previous series played in the West Indies, and he wasn't amongst the highest wicket takers. So, if you want to visit cricket stats, and
I'm just saying his career total, he's got 250 wickets nearly.
How many of them were in the West Indies?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
come back to me. Come back to me.
You come back to me. I got my stats for that stat, and if you want to throw things in my face, you have to come back with another stat to do West Indies, mate. But yeah, anyway,
he'd walk in our team. He'd walk in our team, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know who wouldn't. I could bowl decent in our team, and I bowl bloody googlies as my stock ball.
Right, who else you got?
Wood. Not applicable was the last one. Yeah, so I gave Fisher a 5 because he bowled on a flat deck and
hang on,
debut, and he didn't.
You give Fisher a 5, and you give Wokes a 5 as well.
Fisher played one game, and it was his debut. You give an extra 3. I had to take in your account of giving them an extra 3 points rating just because it's their debut. So
there you go. Look, Stuart Wallace, Roach has just passed Garfield Sobers in the wickets list.
That's nice. That still is nothing to do with the fact that I looked at the last 3 series played in the West Indies, and all the people who were top of the wicket takers were tall bowlers.
I'm sure he's got plenty of wickets in the Caribbean.
That might be nice. Not in the last 3 series before this one in the Caribbean.
I'm going to have a look. When I get off this show, I'm going to find out.
Fine. You tell me if you took more wickets than Lakmal in the series against Sri Lanka.
Well,
tell me that.
We're not worried about that.
Tell me if he took more wickets than Nishant Sharma in the Indian series. You tell me that.
I'm just looking at his career. We were talking about Craig Overton, and somehow we've got on to Kemar Roach.
Tall bowlers, Rich, was my point.
Tall bowlers, and he's not, and he's got 200. Anyway, Neil, we'll go to you.
Lee's 4 as again.
Stuart Wallace is in the chat. Can you just look for me while we're going through this? It'll stop me having to look for it, and it'll stop Brandon moaning at me. How many wickets has Kemar Roach got in the West Indies? If you could have a look for me.
It's completely irrelevant to my point. It really is. However many he's taken, in the series he's taken those wickets, taller bowlers have been more effective. That's my point. If I'd played 100 tests in the West Indies, I'd probably have more wickets than someone who's played 2. That's my point.
Yeah, Craig Overton's a taller bowler, and he took 4 wickets in this series.
Holder was shit this series.
Oh, so now you're just...
As was Overton. But all seamers were relatively shit in this series. So
Go on, Neil.
Lee's 4. I mean, I could have given more just for stickability, but ultimately the lack of runs doesn't lie. Crawley 4, good in parts, bad in others. I think that sort of sums it up. Root 5, again, similar to what you said. Although what I will say is I don't know if I could score him much more, because apart from one decent score, he was getting out in very similar ways, and just pinned to me that there's something not right there. And I say a lot of things playing on his mind, as we've already discussed. Lawrence 4. I know we're going back to that word potential, but it's just not potential. Just ain't good enough. You've got to turn the performances in. Stokes 6, stickability, heart, and performance, but not consistent enough on this tour.
Hey, Neil, can I just stop you there? I don't know if Brandon's seen in the comments. He said, Simon Harris has said, Brandon, watch out. Cruncher has a history of kicking off on his platform. He's calling me the new Will Smith.
Well, I know that you value my opinions more than some others on this platform, so that's enough.
This is a lot more reserved, this show. And I'm the host, so I can't go kicking off.
And he knows that I'm talking sense, so he won't.
You are actually talking sense, but I'm just still saying that Kemar Roach is a quality bowler.
He is a quality. I never said he wasn't.
Anyway, back to you, Neil.
Bairstow 5, Folks 3. Yeah. Wokes, I'm not going to be as kind as Brandon is. And I'm being harsh here. I appreciate that. But what I will say is Wokes has been found out overseas. And it to an extent, it's not his fault. He shouldn't be selected in the first place. But somebody said in the chat, why are we giving ponderous bowlers the new ball? And he was just not threatening enough. So Wokes, I might sneak him to a 4. Overton 2. I completely concur with what you said. He is Wokes light. How Fisher wasn't given another chance and Overton was brought in over Fisher for that last test is an absolute travesty.
We know about Craig Overton.
Yorkshireman either.
We know what Craig Overton does, which isn't a lot. So I don't know what we're gaining. This is a fact-finding mission. It should have been to find out about these players.
Exactly.
Red Bull reset.
So,
the Red Bull reset.
Reset the reset. Leach 5. I know he could have got more, but again, just not good enough, is it? Let's be honest.
No.
He's okay. He's a stopgap. We said it after the Ashes. He's the best of a bad bunch. That's not
go that far.
I
don't even think he's the best of a bad bunch. To be perfectly
well, we'll not discuss Parkinson, to be fair. Mahmood 6. Pains me with him being a Lancastrian, but I do think he was one of the finds of the tour. I'd like to see him. I sometimes feel like he's holding himself back a bit with his bowling as well. I think there's more pace in there, and I'd like to see him try and push for a bit more pace. And I was absolutely gutted for him not getting that 50 as well. So Mahmood 6, Fisher 4, but could have been more if he'd have been given a chance in that last test. And I've given Wood 5 just purely because I think, again, he bowls with heart and he puts his all in. And I just think if he'd have been fit the whole tour, he would probably have been the standout bowler. But yeah, so that's it from me.
Go on, Rob.
I think most of it's been said. I think Lee's 5. I think he gets himself 3 tests in the summer. He was a platform. As we said before, Alistair Cook was that guy who had, 2 or 3 shots, and one of those was the leave. So, yeah, I'm happy to sort of build, back in for a period. Crawley, one good knock, loose, 5. Root, same reasons as everyone else, 6. Lawrence, 6. Hopefully he's the future, 4 or 5 for a good period of time. Stokes, 7. Gave it everything like he always does. Yes, he bats 5, but he also bowls 30 overs plus a game as well. And so basically he's playing, he's doing the job of 2 men, isn't he? So if you give him a 6, give him a 4 or 5 for batting and a 3 for bowling, that's, I'll give him a 7, Stokes. Bairstow, 6. Good 140, obviously, first game, and a couple of cameos. Folks, 5. Couple of slip-ups with the gloves, but I think he needs to be stuck with. Wokes, a generous 3. Overton, 1.5. We don't do 1.5, so we round it up to 2, generously. Leach, same point. Played 36 tests. Played 1 test 36 times. Mahmood, good runs. Look sharp. Agree with you, Neil. There's a little bit more to be found in there. 6. Fisher. What's that, mate?
You give him a 3. Look at poor old Brandon's face.
Mate, there's nothing more to be said. Topic drives the topic drives me insane. We just need to move on. Mahmood, 6. Fisher, 4. 1 game. Wood, 5. Completely agree, Neil. Yeah, he would have been the bowler of the tour. And I give Parkinson an 11.
He gets an 11. Ian is in the chat, so he's he's driving home from Old Trafford. Anyway, I'll quickly zip through.
Contributors, Rich, to not bring the greatest beard of the platform back on. We do have enough contributors to do that. Just letting you know.
What? Just because you give Wokes a 3?
Stop this woke slander. Stop it now.
Well, we probably won't have to worry much more because he probably won't be playing.
He'll be skipper, mate.
Right, I'll quickly zip through. I'll give Crawley a 4. Alex Lees, I'll give him a 4 as well. I thought he'd done all right. I agree with you, Rob. He's probably going to get the New Zealand series. He needs a score, doesn't he? 30s are not really going to cut it in Test match cricket. He needs to get an early score probably in that first test. Get a half century and then see where we go. Joe Root, I've given a 7. That's for his batting, 3 for his captaincy. Lawrence 6, Wokes 7. Not Wokes, Stokes
Yes!
7.
Why
Not a 7.
That was a Freudian slip.
Stokes. Bairstow 6, Folkes 4, Wokes 4. Can't give him any higher. I can't give him any higher. Look, he got 5 wickets.
You just gave him a 7. I'm blocking out.
Yeah.
I'm just giving him a 4. You gave him a 7.
You take that to bed tonight.
I'll clip that. Wokes 7.
Overton 2, Mahmood 7, Leach. I would give him a 6, but that would probably be because of his batting as well. I'll give him a 5. I don't think he can get any more. He'll probably be the spinner for the summer, I would have thought, if they play a spinner, unless they rely on Dan Lawrence, with his spinners. Fisher gets a 5. I'd like to see him play, like you say, Neil Moore. There was no benefit of playing Overton because he's in the bin. Give him a 2, Overton, if I didn't say. And Mark Wood, 5. And Mark Wood, some very good video footage from when he's on the bed.
He's on beef chilled.
My shoulder hurts. Can I still bowl fast? Anyway, quickly touch on, I don't know if we've all heard, Graham Thorpe is the new head coach of Afghanistan, revealed today.
Doesn't change my life, Rich.
Eh?
Doesn't change my life.
Well, I'm just saying, for the people who are listening and the viewers at home, they might not have heard that Graham Thorpe is the new coach of Afghanistan.
Needs to keep his phone in his pocket.
Probably does. Don't go filming any late night drinking. No, it was early morning, wasn't it, actually? They've been out all night. Just other than that, I think we've got Australia, fantastic win. I don't know if anybody see it, in Pakistan. First time for 24 years. They've got a match-winning spinner. England haven't, which we're going to find out in the winter time when we hopefully go over there. And they've also got Pat Cummins, who's probably, I'd say, the number 1 fast bowler in the world. But that was a really good series.
Best player of spin in the world.
Pardon?
Khawaja is probably the best player of spin in the world, isn't he?
Well, we could talk about his renaissance. He probably wouldn't have played none of the Ashes test. That was only because I think Travis Head got COVID, didn't he? And he came in, and I think he scored just short of 500 runs in Pakistan, and he's back in the fold. I just want to touch on, before we go, I know this is all about England, but the West Indies here deserve a massive amount of credit. They came over here, and kept us going during COVID. So I've got nothing against them. Look, I think we all like West Indian cricket. We all like going there. But they showed that the brand of cricket that they played in these first, they just hung in there, didn't they?
They were dour, weren't they? They dug in and batted. Brathwaite batted forever, but showed that's the way to go. So Brathwaite was heroic at the top. Led from the front as skipper. Mayers in the last game. It was just Darren. It was Darren Stevens, wasn't it? Darren Stevens in disguise, bowling for spit runs. Carnage that we caved into that. Holder didn't do a lot, and he is a good player. He's probably their best player, Holder, and he didn't do a lot at all.
Poor series.
But, runs most of the way down, and then the bowlers. Seals impressed me. Only 20, isn't he? Roach led the attack, 250 wickets quietly. 125 of them at home, maybe. They were just better than they were 6 out of 10, and we were 3, 4, or 5. We should have won 2. Could have easily won one of the 2 other games, but we talked about that to death, haven't we? But absolutely right. Give them some credit. Absolutely give them some credit.
How much better would England be if we had a Craig Brathwaite? That's what I want to know. Fix a lot of our problems, wouldn't it?
Well, showed what Test match batting's about. It was exciting, but he done the job. And that's what we're still searching for. We've been looking for them openers since Strauss, since Cook, and we're still looking now. I think we've done everything, haven't we? Really, throughout these 3 shows. I don't think there's more we can talk about. Hopefully, the next time that we're with you, which it won't be for a few weeks because obviously there's no Test match cricket. I think you're going, Brandon, aren't you, to the first Test at Lords?
Yep. Tickets the second day.
Yeah, that's start of June, but we will probably do one of these when we do eventually find out who the new director of cricket is, the new coaches, and sort of see where we go, because I don't think we can get much lower.
Bottom of the world rankings, aren't we?
Yeah.
Bottom of the Test Championship.
Yeah.
We can talk about some club cricket when we come back during our season and talk about something a bit more positive, maybe, eh? That'd be nice.
Well, if you get another, what was it, 100 and how many did you get? 194?
194 not out, yeah.
There you go. Is it a high step score?
Yeah. Only got one adult son before that, and I done it whilst my tibia was still broken, which was nice. Yeah, it was good.
Anyway, thank you for Brandon for coming in and putting me straight about tall bowlers.
Anytime. If you want the definition of tall bowlers, I'm happy to write something up for you. But
but we'll try and find them stats if we can on how many wickets Roach has got in the Windies, because I think he's probably got quite a few. If he's got,
as I said, never said he wasn't a good bowler. Never said he didn't take wickets. I'm just saying in the series, normally it's a tall bowler who takes the most wickets in Test series over there. Not saying Roach don't take any wickets at all.
But maybe if we've had a tall bowler, Rob, called Stuart Broad, he might have taken a few more wickets than Chris Wokes. Yeah,
like you said, mate, going around the estate, aren't we? Just saying the same points over again that we all seem to be pretty clear that we agree on. I would just like to say, Rich, I just noticed in all chat, all session, the chat's been amazing. There's been so many people in the chat absolutely firing in with some fantastic comments. I don't really need to do any research next time. I'll just nick everything off the chat because it's absolutely on fire. So well done to everyone in there.
Anyway, thanks for coming, Rob, and I'll see you soon. And thanks to Neil. Good luck to you three in the new season. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Give it a like on YouTube. Give us a follow on Twitter. And thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you on the next show. Where is he?